Tales Fantasy. You're So Ugly When You Cry, Chapter 1.
How can I change my life when I only wanna die? You couldn't love me if you tried. You were so ugly when you cry.
I came to this party because I had nothing better to do. I also had to, but I refused to dance to my mother's tune. She tried to chain me to her hip. Really. An actual chain hung from her austere red dress, its tufted curls swathed by a trail that spun down its bodice like an undersea extravaganza. Tulle and satin and brocade embroidery all met at golden teeth stringing from her hip. She looked savage, utterly savage. As the Alphess, nothing else would be appropriate. I managed to squeeze out of being chained like a misbehaving pup and joining my little brother on her other side, though I doubted Roni had misbehaved a day in his angelic little life. His chain was red, just like the velvet suit swamping his skinny frame. They'd measured him for it and still created a veritable circus tent. Red. There was too much red. Sprinkled on our bakery's renowned pastries, stamped into the pressed collars of our every servant's button-down, clasped around my Omega brother's neck, protecting him from vultures and other beasts who could only look and not touch if the Omega was protected by a family stronger than every one of their pitiful ancestors combined. I had refused to wear red. Blue was easier to disappear into the corners and behind curtains, as I did now. I'd lost sight of the Alphess, Roni, and our family's entire red-soaked entourage some time ago. A jittery song that I probably should have recognized played in the ballroom, adjoined to where white-cloaked stands presented an assortment of confections and topiaries. Each loud color screamed the status of the family whose name they bore, none more gaudy than the red. Always with the red. Oh my, I've interrupted. A talking hand appeared from the heavy folds of the blue drapes. A vicious grin poked sharp canines into my bottom lip as I awaited which ingrate flirted with death tonight. The talking hand, slender and pale and freckled like a rash, was attached to an equally sleek elbow, which was connected to a dainty shoulder. And from that shoulder, delicate green lace chantillied up the graceful neck of an Omega girl. My snarl turned into a grimace. Forget the scandal of the eldest daughter of the great Alphess being caught behind thick drapes at an evening ball with none other than the youngest daughter of our family's biggest rival. For an Alpha to be caught alone with an Omega was a cross that not even the richest family in the world could bear. I could not retreat further into the wall without breaking through the reinforced Gothic windows and plummeting 3 stories over a terraced balustrade to the burbling swan pond below. If I did that, I could say goodbye to my mere inch of freedom from my mother's side. Even if I told them I wasn't trying to die, but to save our family from reparations and talk, it would fall on deaf ears. Repeat offenders had the unique position of never being believed at face value. Bana and Bama Vendetta had an interesting place in high society. About as interesting as their ridiculous hick names. Everyone knew the vendettas and imbroglios could not be seen in public together without causing a scandal of such epic proportions that entire companies fell to ruins beneath their designer heels. Who would dare invite vendettas to a party attended by imbroglios, by the Alphess? Hi. Bana Vendetta's fiery red poof entered my enclosed space. I covered my nose and mouth with both hands, daring not to breathe in too deeply. My shoulders wedged painful carvings of bony sockets into the velvet-lined wall. The bursting red of her hair and the bursting red of her freckles were belied by the soft, nearly white green of her full-bodied gown. A dessert tray, piled high with frosted offerings, mixed all the different colors of each noble family into a dark gray disaster. It wobbled dangerously, streaking the dark blue of the drapes as they closed shut behind her. "You're Sunny, right?" "Sunifred," I answered through muffled lips. My gloves were deerskin, gray as the disaster on the Omega's plate. Built for winter gales, they were at least neutral enough that the Alphess didn't have much to say about them. The dark navy stripes of my suit, on the other hand, had produced nothing less than an epic confrontation. "Sunifred," Banna corrected with a little bob. The green bodice of her skirts ended in white icicles that tickled her shins. At her curtsy, one leg swept out like a graceful dancer, and I tried to vanish into the wall. She began stabbing the fork into the gray froth and shoveling it into her cheeks until she mimicked a chipmunk. "I know you're trying to be mindful, but could you not be so blatant about trying not to smell me?" A warning growl emanated from my throat. "Get lost." Banna slid into place against the wall, her braced hip popping out slightly. "But this is the only set of curtains in the ballroom." "Yeah?" I pointed one gloved finger to the frosting-streaked curtain edge. "And it's taken." Then, the weirdest thing happened. This Omega girl ignored me. And I did nothing about it. Banna Vendetta ate each overly frosted pastry and confection, used the little golden fork to scrape the sugar off her upper lip, then departed from my secluded spot with little more than a walking curtsy. I could hardly believe my eyes. Just as soon as I'd let go of my nose, wiping my gloves against the immaculate curtains for good measure, we couldn't let any stray hint of her Omega pheromones find their way onto my person. The curtain slid back open. I barely stilled my hands before they could brush up against the lace where her shoulder met her neck. Banna Vendetta blinked at me with owlish eyes, looking first at my face, then my gloves, then the curtain she'd reappeared through like a misty storm. "Well, that's just rude," she said. She puffed up her cheeks, pouting. I half thought she'd stomp her foot in childish anger, but she just furrowed her brow, glaring up at me. I couldn't tell if I was more dazzled by the frosting that had somehow ended up in the ringlets closest to her cheeks, or that this Omega girl from a ruined family had the gall to glare at me. Banna didn't even give me the time to decide. "I was going to thank you for the use of your hiding spot," she huffed, though I'm not sure how she didn't make herself dizzy or run out of air before she finished the words. "I see that wasn't necessary. You want to be left alone. I get it. I'm the trespasser. Maybe next time, I'll be the first one to find the only hidden corner, and I won't be so nice to you when you want to eat your snacks in peace and silence without being slobbered over by alphas you don't know." "Oh, wait. That wouldn't be a problem for you, would it?" By the end, the huffing gave way to grit, instantly recognizable. It was a little unpolished, but I saw it. A noble's grit, a back that would not bend. Disgraced though they may be, the Vendettas had just as long and sordid of a history as my unfortunate name. Sure, she used smiles and friendliness like a naive simpleton who'd never stepped foot inside of a ballroom. But when insulted, The gilded edges of her noble spine kept her standing. It wasn't easy for her. I could see that, too. The wobbling of her lower jaw, the way her eyes shined with far too much emotion. She was still untested. Hadn't been ridiculed enough. And I? Was I to be one of them? Was I to set this Omega girl onto a path of social scathing, reminding her of her place? Banna turned. Her hair was too curly to hit my nose, but if it hadn't been coiffed so tightly, I had no doubt that I would have been slapped. Maybe I would even have deserved it. "Miss Vendetta," I said, voice coming out far louder than intended. My hiding place was well and truly corrupted now. "There's another party next week. A tea party, but it'll be indoors for the eclipse." Her back stilled, the heavy curtain hiding half of her form from sight. "Yes, well, I won't be attending that event. It's not very safe for Omegas to go wandering around when there's a dark sun, is it?" I could have cursed myself. Of course. Roni was going to spend the whole day locked up tight behind layers of reinforced glass with his closest Omega friends. Others called the Alphess a charitable example to follow and ensure the safety of our most vulnerable citizens. But I knew the truth. If any one of Roni's friends were embroiled in a scandal, she'd drop them so fast they'd be scalded by the backlash. Then Roni would go on another hunger strike. Maybe I'd even join him. And the Alphess would have a hard time saving face in front of all her business partners. She had no choice but to take care of his friends. With nothing to say and shame clouding the back of my neck, a heated wash that made me want to suddenly chop off all of my hair, even though I had taken my whole life to grow it so that it hung past my hip. I receded from the conversation, waited for her to leave, waited for this ludicrous experience to stow itself away, only brought out once I was suspended in my nightmares. "What's your point?" she asked, but didn't turn. "Miss Imbroglio." I swallowed, struck dumb. What was my point? Did I even have one? If you need a place to enjoy your snacks," I mumbled, wishing I didn't have these gloves on so I could tear at the bracelets secured snugly around my wrists. "Then it would be fine if you found my hiding spot." Banna Vendetta cocked her fuzzy head to the side, which unfortunately only made her neck appear more graceful and swan-like. Seriously, what kind of Omega turned their back on an Alpha? What kind of Omega showed the back of their neck to an Alpha? Who had taught this girl? I was terrified. I was so scared that she'd walk straight out there and something would happen and it would all be justified, because when is an Alpha ever in the wrong? And "I'll see you then," she said over her shoulder. She beamed a giant smile that horrified me because I could find no chips at its edges. Then she walked off, and I was left to wonder in cloaked silence if she had found her family safely. That was how it began.